Okay, now as a fellow high schooler, honestly, I gotta say one thing and one thing only. I understand how horny you guys get, okay? Like, I get it. I was once in high school too, okay? I'm only 20, okay? I'm 20 years old, okay? I understand it. But there's always a time and a place to do these things. And I didn't know that when I was in high school, and that's why I have a bunch of stories of me doing the devil's tango. But obviously, apparently for some of you guys keep doing it, and it came to the point where I guess it's creepy to every other student. I don't know. Let's just say this story gets really weird, so just stick along and just prepare for the ride, okay? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So obviously, if you guys don't know, a lot of you guys enjoy the stories with me saying the word devil's tango. And of course, you know, I'm here to deliver. That's my job as a content creator. So let's get straight into this one. So sadly, once again, though, I should mention this story isn't about me. I have a really cool story about me coming up soon, but this one's about another person. But I'm in the situation. Same thing as last time. So yeah, kind of weird. Anyways, let's start this off. So obviously, if you guys don't know, the story starts off in high school. High school is like a normal place for me to do everything, or for other people to do everything. High school is like our haven of like learning your inner depths of your hormones. Yeah, sure. We're gonna go with hormones. Now in high school, I remember I had this math class that I absolutely hated. And honestly, I would make any excuse just to get out of that classroom. And I think all of us kind of have like a same experience with like a certain class that we dislike. But anyways, I remember there was an assignment that I didn't do and I had to hand in, but I didn't finish it whatsoever. But before my math teacher started walking around picking up the assignments, the first thing I obviously did was walk up to her and say, hey, yeah, my stomach's kind of hurting. I've been having stomach pains for like the last couple of weeks. Can I go to the bathroom? And obviously she said yes, because, you know, she's not going to say no. But the way she said it was really weird. She was like, yeah, just make it quick. Now, I'm going to be honest here, okay? And this is me being brutally honest. If I actually had stomach pain, okay, it's not going to be quick. So you saying make it quick is like me saying, oh, you're going to go puke? Okay, just make it quick. Like, sorry, I can't just, you know, push in my stomach and make sure it all comes out like in an instant second. Like, who do you think I am? But anyways, I went straight to the bathroom, obviously. I walked down to the hallway, went straight to the bathroom. And when I got there, you know, I literally like paced around the bathroom for a bit. Actually, I literally remember me doing that. It was kind of funny. I looked at myself in the mirror thinking, huh, not bad. And then I went to the bathroom stall and sat down and watched some YouTube. Now, I'm not weird for watching YouTube in the bathroom stall. I think all of us have done it before. Like, watch videos on the toilet. It's a normal thing for all of us. Like, when your favorite YouTuber uploads, like me, for example, if I'm your favorite YouTuber, comment that down below. you're kind of hot for that. No, but seriously, like, who doesn't watch YouTube on the toilet? Like, I think all of us have done it before. I know I have. So as I was sitting there watching my daily Jacksepticeye, I saw a chick just walk into the bathroom. Now, if you guys are wondering how I saw her when I was in the bathroom stall, you guys obviously know there's like cracks in like every bathroom stall that you can kind of like see through. It's kind of weird because those are made for privacy, but you can still kind of see through them. It's kind of weird. I don't know. But basically, I remember looking through the cracks after I heard someone walk in and I saw it was a girl. And I knew this chick too. Like, this chick literally had like a boyfriend and everything. And, you know, I was so curious of why she was in there. At first, I was thinking like, oh, you know, it's a mistake. She didn't mean to walk into here. But then after that, I saw her boyfriend run in there right after, and they just started making out. Like, right in the bathroom. They were making out heavily. Like, they made it seem like 365 was like a kid's movie. Like, it was so weird how hardcore they were making out. Like, they were eating each other. They were literally eating each other. So at that moment when they were like eating each other, I was just kind of sitting there. I turned down the volume of my Jacksepticeye video that I was watching because I was just really weirded out. And I was just thinking, okay, I could walk out right now, or I could, you know, wait till he's finished. Like, I don't know what to do. But then they went into the stall right next to mine. And instantly at that moment, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's going down. He's doing the devil's tango. And I felt so weird. Like, I literally was freaking out. I was kind of panicking. Well, not like really panicking in the sense of, oh my goodness, they're literally doing the devil's tango right next to my stall. Oh my God. Like, no, I was like freaking out, like, okay, how the heck am I gonna get out of this situation? And as I was thinking of a plan to get out, I remember I instantly heard a thud on the ground. And as I look over to the stall right next to me, I'm like, what the heck was that? And then I look down, and obviously, somehow, I saw this girl on her damn knees. Okay, now, obviously, I think we all know what's going down at that moment. I don't have to paint a picture. So yeah, obviously, that was going down. It was really weird. I was just really awkwarded out, and I was just thinking of a way to get out. Now, I know many of you guys are like, oh, you could have just walked right out of there. This guy was literally like a senior in our school. And me, I was a freshman, so it was awkward enough as it was. So one thing I remember doing was, you know, getting ready to leave. I remember I wiped myself and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna run out of here in 3, 2. And right as I say 2, someone else walks into the bathroom. Now, sadly, it wasn't a teacher, because if it was a teacher, that's when I knew like this was gonna be the funniest thing in the world. But instead, it was a kid from the leadership club in our high school. Now, if you guys don't know, I think all of us have like a leadership club in our high schools. Like, you know, where basically it's like these group of kids that work like under the teacher's pets. Like, I don't know, I call them like the ultra teacher's pets, or in other words, wonder pets. Losers. Just kidding. I was kind of a loser too. So yeah, anyways, he walked in and he instantly saw what was going on. He saw me in the stall, and then he saw them in a stall right next to me. And then this guy decides to like literally start yelling like, oh my goodness, no way, these guys are doing it in the bathroom. And as he was yelling that, the guy runs out, pulls up his pants, and then these guys just start scrapping. Like, these guys are hardcore fighting. And then instantly me just sitting there, I'm like, do I get out of here? Do I wait? Like, I'm just watching a kid get beat up right in front of me because this guy, I guess, cock blocked the guy. Like, I don't know. It was weird. And as I was just sitting there, the guys were just fighting it out. And in me, I wanted to get out of there. Like, I was like, that's it. Like, I'm leaving. I'm done. Like, I went on my belly and I went under the stall to get out. But then as I was sliding under the stall and leaving, I instantly see a half naked chick in front of me. I see a guy with his pants like semi down ish fighting another guy with fully closed and like looks like he was getting beat up. And then there's just me on my belly, just laying on the bathroom floor that just slid out of a bathroom stall the whole time, just hearing them do the entire thing. Yeah, it was a weird situation. But then as I was on the ground, instantly, of course, as usual, another person walked in. And yes, this time it was the teacher, but it wasn't no ordinary teacher. This was our vice principal, the amazing, I'm just kidding. I hated her. No, she was a terrible person. And she decides to walk in and say, what the heck is going on in here? Now, at that moment, I knew I was screwed. I was in deep trouble. You know, like, she came in and she told all of us to go up against the wall. And she's like, okay, what's going on here? The girl instantly said like, oh, I walked into the wrong bathroom. And then I remember me and the guy from the leadership club just looks at her and like, you went to the wrong you're half naked in this what? And then obviously the guy was like, these guys walked in and started, you know, fighting me. And then me, I'm just like there, just like, I was laying on my belly. I went to the bathroom. And at that point, like, the teacher was like so confused on what was going on. So she took all of us to her office, and at one at a time, she made us all walk into the bathroom and basically say what happened. And I basically just told her like, I was in math class, my stomach was hurting, I walked into the bathroom, I took a fat one. I didn't say that specifically, but you know what I mean. And like, my stomach was hurting and I heard these two people walk in and they were just, you know, making noises. I wasn't sure what was going on. And then when I got out of the bathroom stall, I saw them fighting and I was scared. I don't know. I made it sound like I was super innocent at that point. I don't know. I made it seem like I didn't know they were doing the devil's tango. Because like I said before in all my videos, snitches get stitches. And yeah, apparently like the girl story and the guy story didn't add up, but me and the leadership kid story kind of did. So I guess, you know, they automatically got suspended for a week. But as for me, I remember my parents had to come pick me up after school. And when after school came, my parents picked me up because I was sitting in the office all day because my teacher just wanted me to make sure like I was safe and stuff. She was like going over everything with me and telling me how, like, you know, if anything suspicious happens in the bathroom, like, just please come tell me and stuff like that, as if I was gonna snitch or something. I don't know. This teacher was weird. I never liked her. And yeah, that's basically it when it comes to my experiences with bathrooms and doing in the bathroom.
All right, so what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to an insane story. So today's story takes place back when I was actually, funny enough, my grade 9 year. In grade 9, I'm not gonna lie to you, I did a lot of crazy things. But one thing I never expected to do was to do a girl in the bathroom stall. Or to be exact, on the toilet. The way this ended up happening was actually really weird, but I remember one time I was in school just hanging out doing my own thing, and there was a girl that I knew about in my class that I wasn't really a fan of. If you're wondering what class it was, I think it was language arts. But going on with the story, I remember basically during language arts, me and her, we would kind of sit beside each other but not talk at all. Me and her weren't interested in each other, and don't get me wrong, even though she had a nice pair of cherries, me and her, we just never spoke. But this is where the story gets actually pretty interesting. I remember one time she ended up looking at me saying, Bubba, I'm just curious, do you know this girl? And she showed me a photo of a girl that I actually did the devil's tango with back last year when I was in grade 8. Now, I remember I was embarrassed to say yes, so I ended up just saying, I mean, I'm friends with her and I know about her. And that's when she ended up looking at me with an eyebrow raised saying, I'm just curious, did you do the devil's tango with her? What? Why would you ask that? Is what I said afterwards. And then I remember she was explaining to me how basically she's friends with this girl and how she, you know, was told about how me and her did it and how we did it on a middle school roof. That is a story on the channel, by the way. If you do want to go out and watch it, go for it. But going on with the story, she was very interested in how I basically did the devil's tango. So I remember from there, I remember just looking at her saying, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about this just, you know, out loud. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird. And then that's when she said, oh, like, it's fine. Like, you know what? Like, here, add my Snapchat. And then from there, I ended up adding this girl's Snap. Snap. Now, once again, like in the beginning of the story, I said I wasn't interested in her, and I really wasn't, but I really wanted to see where this was gonna go. So I remember from there, basically, me and her, we were just snapping back and forth. I would snap her during the day, she snapped me at night, and all we talked about was basically the Devil's Tango. Now, let me say this. Having a conversation with a girl is not a hard thing to do, but having conversations with a girl about the Devil's Tango usually leads somewhere. And what does it usually lead to? Well, actually doing the Devil's Tango. But obviously with me and this girl, it didn't happen so quickly. I remember me and her, we were just talking on Snap, and we were basically talking about one topic that I never expected to talk about. And that was, what was the perfect size? Now guys, if you're watching this video, I want you quickly, just with your hands, make the right size, and girls, you do the same thing. Now, I'm telling you right now, the guys are obviously gonna show bigger than the girls, because I don't know why this girl told me, oh, to be honest, like, I'm more of like a 5-inch type of person. Wow, congratulations. Half of the population is 5 inches. Congrats. Sorry, that's a really weird fun fact to say, but as you know, actually, the most common eggplant size is 5 inches. Yeah. Kind of interesting. Going on with the story though, I remember we were talking about it, and to be honest, I didn't really want to talk about eggplants with her. So I decided to talk to her about the next best thing, and that was cherries. Now, cherries are amazing. I'm not joking. Comment down below what you guys prefer, cherries or peaches. But for me, I'm a cherry guy. And to be honest with you, if you guys like peaches, fun fact, you are a percentage of gay. Did you guys know that if you like peaches more than cherries, there's a chance that you might be gay? Now, you're probably looking at me saying, what in the world am I talking about? Dude, can you just talk about the story? No, actually, I'm going to tell you this fun fact. So did you know that in this world, any guy and girl can have a nice peach? Like, I'm not joking when I say this. Many, and I mean many people, can go to the gym, do 100 squats a day, and have the nicest peach ever. But as for cherries, only women have them. And on top of that, only a nice pair of cherries is very rare to find. So I'm just saying, for all those peach guys out there, you might want to reconsider saying the word cherries when a girl asks you what you prefer. Because at the end of the day, have you seen those baseball players? Yeah, they have a nice peach. Anyways, going on with the story though, I remember I ended up telling her that fun fact, and she started laughing saying, well, I mean, my cherries are good too. Your cherries are nice, is what I said, with an eyebrow raise emoji. And this is where things get really, well, to the other side of things, if you know what I mean. I remember I ended up snapping her saying, well, like, I'm gonna be for real with you, I don't believe it, because it's hard finding a nice girl with nice cherries. And at that moment, she ended up sending me a photo of her cherries, and I'm not gonna lie, she had a nice rack. Like, no joke. So I remember from there, I got bricked up, and, you know, she ended up telling me to send her something. Obviously, I didn't. Guys on the internet, please don't send your photos anywhere. It's not a good idea. I'm just saying that for privacy reasons. YouTube, don't demonetize this video. And then I remember from there, we always had that Devil's Tango tension going on. The next day at school, I remember I sat down beside her, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt really weird sitting beside her, knowing exactly what was through that shirt. But at the same time, it kind of got me in the mood, and I remember me and her, we just kept looking back and forth at each other, because we both knew that, like, you know, we were attracted to each other and stuff, and it wasn't as awkward as before when, to be honest, me and her weren't attracted to each other, and we were just, you know, two people sitting beside each other. But it got to the point where I remember she looked at me and I looked at her, and it got to the point where, I'm not gonna lie, she snapped me saying, I'm wet right now. Now, when she texted me that on Snapchat, I didn't know what to say. In my mind, I was thinking that maybe I should just play it cool and, you know, just act like I don't need it. But at the same time, like I said in an older video, I'm a hypersexual. If I'm gonna do it, I gotta do the Devil's Tango. So I ended up messaging her on Snap saying, yo, okay, you know what we could do? We could go to the bathroom. The bathroom? Are you crazy? Like, there's no way we're going to the bathroom. No, trust me, we're going to the bathroom. I mean, which one? And then that's when we decided to go to a bathroom stall in the guys' change room. Yeah, I know, kind of insane, but I remember I ended up leaving, going to the guys' change room since PE was already in session. No one would be in the change room. And basically, this girl, she ended up following behind me 2 seconds later, going into the guys' change room. Now, obviously, we didn't want to do it straight up in the change room. So I remember me and her, we ended up going into a bathroom stall. And in the bathroom stall, there was obviously going to be a toilet. Since there was a toilet, I remember I ended up sitting down on the toilet, and this girl ended up sitting on me. And let's just say, yeah, we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. I remember as we were doing it, she ended up yelling my name like over and over again. Like, you know how awkward it is when a girl goes, Baba, Baba, Baba? Like, it's just really awkward. But I remember when that happened, I was just kind of just, you know, doing my thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even get to finish. She finished before me. I know. crazy. But I won't lie to you guys, there was a reason for that. And the reason was that since I sat on the toilet with my pants off, my brain decided to tell my body that I have to go take a fat dump. So from there, I remember I was basically more in need of, you know, taking a dump than doing the devil's tango. So the whole time when this chick was riding me on a toilet seat, I was basically thinking about dropping a deuce. Yeah, really weird. But I remember that whole thing ended up getting really awkward. And to be honest, she ended up saying like, oh, like, do you not want to finish? And I told her I didn't want to. And to be honest, like, I was just not in the mood anymore. And me and her, we ended up going back to class, sitting down really awkwardly. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. We didn't get caught, nothing. It was just another common day of me doing the devil's tango. But I mean, hey, there's a lot of those to tell on this channel. Okay, so I think some of us are not used to being in small spaces. Like, if you're able to be inside a coffin for 24 hours underground, comment down below, because I know Mr. Beast did it, but I'm telling you one thing, being trapped in a small space is super scary, especially when it's with your crush for 24 hours. And today's story is a lot of that, but before anything, make sure you guys do join the Kick streams down below. Seriously, I'm streaming on Kick now, and it's super fun and exciting to talk to you guys and tell more crazy stories just like this one. Other than that, let's get straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane, awesome story. So this story takes place back when I was actually, funny enough, in grade 7. Yes, I was actually a young middle schooler, and if you guys don't know, I used to have a crush back in middle school that I basically fell in love with. Basically, I want to say back when I was in grade 7, or actually even in grade 6 as well, there was one girl in my class in my middle school that I basically fell in love with. She was a girl that I majorly just wanted to be with, and I felt like me and her would be the most insane couple ever. I think a lot of us have this feeling when we have a crush or someone that you imagine yourselves with them and thinking it's gonna be the best thing ever, and then it never ends up happening, so you sit in your room depressed playing Call of Duty. Well, that's basically what happened to me, but that's not the point. I remember basically what ended up happening was one time, me and my class, we had a field trip. Now, field trips are usually the good things in middle school or in any school, but I remember this field trip was literally a field trip to the park, and all we had to do was basically go out and stargaze at night. So yes, this field trip wasn't during school hours, which is kind of insane. But I remember basically we all would get like extra points into our report cards if we went. So I remember basically I ended up going up to my parents that day when we got announced for the field trip, and I told them, hey mom, can I please go to this field trip? Like, it's for extra grades and it's really cool. I remember my mom looked at it. She saw that we were basically going to be out super late from basically 9 p.m. to like almost 11:30 at night, which is almost close to midnight. And a grade 7 going out during midnight, maybe common nowadays, but I had strict parents, so they were no way okay with this. Anyways, I remember basically I kept begging my mom over and over, and as 2 days passed, I remember my mom finally signed the paper saying, fine, you can go. Because either I was going to be up playing video games or I go out and actually do homework, which, I mean, let's be real here, that's a deal breaker for any parent. Anyways, on the day of, I remember basically at school, we were all getting ready to prep our stuff and basically get ready to go and do this field trip later on during the school day. Because basically what we had to do is meet up at the school, pack up everything, and then go over there. I remember as I was packing up my things and getting ready for placing my stuff for the field trip, I remember I looked at my middle school crush and she was beautiful. No joke, I remember she looked at me with her big eyes that she had, and I remember she walked up to me and said, hey Bubba, like, are you excited for this field trip? Oh yeah, 100% is what I told her. And I remember she kept looking at me and basically like talking to me about stuff about stars and stuff, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of ended up toning out her voice and just hearing the glowing sounds coming from around her and how beautiful she was. I know I sound like a simp during the story, but trust me, that was basically me back in middle school. Anyways, going on though, I remember as the school day was about to be over, I remember I was walking with my friend home, and I remember he was explaining to me how basically for some reason my middle school crush was maybe not gonna go to this field trip. I remember when he said, yeah, so like, I don't know, man, I don't think she's probably gonna go to this field trip. I looked over at him and said, wait, why? Why wouldn't she go? She loves the stars. And then he ended up telling me, well, apparently she has like stomach aches or something. I don't know, like, did you not see how many times she has to go to the bathroom? To be honest, I didn't realize it during school day, and honestly, I felt bad and I kind of felt sad at the same time. Because the whole reason I really wanted to go to this field trip is not really to actually look at the stars when there's one beautiful one right in front of me, aka my middle school crush at the time. But anyways, going on from there, I remember I went home and I was all bummed out basically, and then my mom, her being excited that I'm going out to do homework super late instead of playing video games, came downstairs to my room and said, okay Bubba, you have like 20 minutes, get ready, I'm gonna drive you back to the school. And I was like, okay, and I got all my stuff and I ended up going to school. When I went to school, it was super dark out, and honestly, one thing I realized is that school at nighttime is a lot more scarier than school at daytime, because, well, I don't know, it just looks like a really freaky old mental asylum. But I remember as we all met up in front of the school, we went into our classrooms, we picked up everything we needed, and then we ended up going for the field trip. We went to the park and we started walking around, and right as you know it, out of nowhere, my middle school crush ends up running into the park, seeing all of us, and sits down in the circle circle that we were sitting in. I remember I was super happy in seeing her, and I was like, basically, I was getting jitty. I'm not gonna lie. I was freaking out saying, oh my goodness, like, she's actually here, dude. As I'm like grabbing my friend's shoulder, telling him like she's here as if she's like the princess of the class. Well, in my mind she was, but going on. I remember basically we were going around placing telescopes down that we had in our classroom, and we were just looking at stars and writing down constellations and stuff. I don't know. I really don't care about the sky, to be honest, because, well, the only thing I would do nowadays is reach for the sky. But other than that, one thing I ended up realizing is that my middle school crush was really having bad stomach aches. And I know my friend mentioned this earlier as we were walking home together, but basically what I started realizing is that she really had to go to the bathroom a lot. Like, it got to the point where like she ended up going more than 4 times and no one knows what was going on with her. So I remember it got to the point where I ended up walking up to her saying, yo, like, is everything good? Me thinking that I could be some sort of way of helping her with her stomach ache, as if I'm like Advil or something. But then she looks at me and says, oh, like, no, I'm okay. It's just my stomach's been hurting recently. I don't know why. And I felt bad, and I kind of just decided to stick with her and be helpful in a way with her homework while she just kept going to the bathroom. And then this is where things get super bad. I remember it was towards the end of the field trip, and it was like 11:30 at night. And basically, I remember I walked up to my crush and I told her, yo, like, here's your homework. I managed to finish it for you. Are you feeling okay? And right as she looks at me, she goes back straight to the bathroom. At that point, I remember I looked at my teacher. My teacher said to go follow her to make sure she's okay. And I ended up following her to the bathrooms, and I was outside the door while she ran inside and went straight to a toilet, I'm guessing. And me, as I'm sitting outside, I remember all I ended up hearing was, oh my, that hurts. Right at that moment, I'm like, yo, is she good in there? But no one else was around. So me being the dumb grade 7 kid I was, I decided to go inside the bathroom to go check on her. And right as I go inside, I remember I look around and I'm thinking, bro, what is going on? Because all I hear is her making the biggest dump I've ever heard of. Like, no joke, for a girl that I thought was a princess, dude, she definitely did not have a princess down there, bro. Like, it was gross, okay? I don't know how else to explain it, but it was gross. So I remember I ended up knocking on the stall saying, yo, is everything okay in there? And she like instantly like gets really mad and says, Bubba, what are you doing in here? It's the girls' bathroom. Yeah, but like I thought something was wrong. And right as I say that, that's when the thing that terrifies me the most ended up happening. The lights went out, and basically for some reason I heard a lock happen on the door. At that moment, I remember I ran towards the door and I heard that no one was around, and basically as I tried to open the door wouldn't open. No matter what, the door was not gonna open. And right at that moment, I go back to the stall and I talk to my crush and I say, yo, so they just locked us in here. Okay, like, can you turn on the light, is what she says. As I look for a light switch though, I couldn't find one, because you gotta remember, this is like a park bathroom, so like everything's like kind of like built in, I guess, in some way. I have no idea. But I remember I kept telling her to like calm down, don't worry, I'll figure things out. And I'm just looking around thinking what to do. As for my middle school crush, well, she was just making sure she got everything out of her system. So as she's just majorly farting, I'm just sitting in the bathroom in the dark trying to figure out what's going on. And as I'm looking around, like kind of like putting my hands on the bathroom floor to see if there's any way I can maybe like turn on the light or figure out something that's around, kind of just know my surroundings, I ended up finding a lighter on the ground. I found the lighter and I remember I flicked the lighter on and there was a little bit of light. My crush noticed it and she said, oh, like, what is that? And I said it was a lighter I found on the ground, and she's all like, wait, you have a lighter? Do you smoke, Bubba? No, is what I told her. And then afterwards, like after like 10 seconds later, she ended up coming out of the bathroom with the little light we had. I ended up making sure she washed her hands and everything, and one thing led to another. She was sticking right beside me. Don't get me wrong, as much as I love candlelit dinners and having a romantic time, being in the bathroom with my crush was not romantic. I remember me and her, we ended up sitting in there, just sitting down, talking on the floor, and just waiting till someone was able to help us. But then I remember I looked at her and said, I wish there was some way to like actually like communicate to the outside. There's got to be something in here. And right as I say that, this girl decides to pull out her phone that she has. She had an iPhone 4, by the way, at the time. She pulls it out and says, oh, like, I should probably just call my mom. Are you joking? We've been sitting down here for half an hour, like stuck in here, and you're literally now just calling your mom? You had a phone the entire time? I remember I was playing that through my head, but honestly, the only thing I said to her was, oh, that's a good idea. Because I didn't want to make fun of my middle school crush for being how slow she was, I guess, in some way. And then one thing led to another. She ended up calling her mom. Her mom got absolutely mad at the teachers for not realizing that we were stuck in the bathroom. One thing led to another. The teachers came, opened the doors. Parents were really mad, and my mom was really upset because it got to the point where it was almost like 1 in the morning. And being a young kid at 1 in the morning going outside, let's be real here, no one should be doing that. Okay, so today's story is something that will literally blow your minds. If you guys read the title of this video, yes, I don't know how this ended up happening, nor do I want to know. Well, to be honest, I do know because, well, I'm going to tell you the story. And today's story does get insane, so make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But anyways, let's get straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another, well, crazy story. So today's story is basically something that I need to tell you guys guys for a while now. To be honest, I was gonna tell the story a long time back when I told the story about me doing it on the Ferris wheel. Yes, I did the Devil's Tango on the Ferris wheel, and I was ready to tell the next story the next day about how I did it on a roller coaster. But honestly, knowing how that video did, and a lot of people are confused on how in the world this ended up happening, well, this is when I tell you this story is actually nuts. Now, this story starts off back when I was in high school. You see, in high school, it was my grade 10 year, and it was towards the end of the year. And what a lot of schools like to do is they like to make some sort of event or some sort of fun, exciting moment so that the school is more quiet when the grade 12s have to take like their finals and tests to basically determine if they're going to what college and stuff. But that aside, I remember basically I was actually super excited to go to an amusement park. With going with basically all the grade 10s and basically everyone in my grade, all of us being in an amusement park would be, well, really dope. So I remember basically me and my friends were discussing how this whole trip was gonna be like when the teacher announced it originally. And I remember one of my friends ended up saying, dude, like we should definitely like go with a girl. So like at the end of the year, like they'll like remember us for like that trip. You know what I mean? So like they'll talk about it like all summer with us. I don't really know what he was getting at, but basically one thing led to another. He just wanted to go to an amusement park with a chick. No, honestly, it's not a bad idea, and I don't blame him. And knowing this, like honestly, I was kind of on board with it. Because let's be real here, guys. All guys want to hang out with girls. That's just the common sense. That's just the science of human nature. Unless you don't like girls, then you're swinging in a different ballpark. But you know what? That's not the point. Anyways, going on though, I remember basically I was talking to my friend, and he was basically getting everything planned. He was hitting up girls on Snapchat, trying to figure out who would go with who. But I remember I had different plans. I remember there was one girl in my school that was madly, well, kind of already into me. Now, I didn't like, 100% know if she was actually into me or not yet, to be honest. Because, I was like flirting with her here and there during the school year, but it never really determined if she liked me or not, nor did it determine if I liked her or not fully until like towards the end of the year when I was like, you know what? This girl has really nice cherries. I'm just gonna hit her up. So I remember I ended up going on my phone on Snapchat, and I ended up DMing her saying, yo, I just wanted to mention, like, you're actually really cute. I literally told her that out of thin air. I don't know how she took it. I couldn't imagine her looking at her phone just thinking, huh, wow, this guy who DM'd me all throughout the school year is suddenly interested in me. Yeah, kind of awkward. But you know what? That's not the point, I guess. I don't know. The main thing was that I was basically trying to tell her that I'm interested in her and basically, hey, ride on a roller coaster with me. That's kind of like the main basis of what I was trying to get at here. So I remember basically when I ended up messaging her, I literally got a message back instantly saying, oh, like, thanks. Like, I thought you were cute too. Great, is what I ended up texting her back. And then afterwards, one thing led to another. We ended up messaging each other for the entire school day. And then I remember towards the end of the school day, me and her, we ended up actually meeting up and walking home together. I didn't have my car at this time because, well, I was in grade 10. So obviously I wouldn't have a car because I didn't get my car until grade 11. But you guys know what I mean. I basically ended up walking home with her, and we basically, started talking and stuff and being flirtations and stuff. And it seemed like we were already dating. It sounds cringe, but I think everyone in high school understands, like, that feeling when it feels like you're already dating a chick, even though like nothing's really official. I don't know. It's like the go-to word for like when, like, for example, you're talking to a chick, but then a hotter chick comes along and you're like, oh, like, it's not official. I don't know. I've done that many times in my life. I think that's why my Devil's Tango body count's so high, but that's not the point. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember basically the next day, it was a Friday, and the school needed to be like basically deserted for the grade 12s to do the testing. So I remember when we got to the school, instantly there was a bus there that we all had to hop on. Every grade 10 and 9 and 11, I believe, were on those buses, and it was super cool seeing like all of us from one school collide into one bus. Well, not one bus, it was actually 3 different buses, but it was cool seeing all the grade 10s in our school on one bus. It's like seeing like your high school graduation or high school reunion all together in one, because like there's some people that you're friends with, some people you don't really care about, and some people that you haven't seen in a long time. It's actually kind of nuts. Have you guys like ever like seen a friend in the beginning of the school year but then never see them till the end of the school year? That's basically what it was for all of us. Anyways, I remember we ended up going there, and we ended up like, basically heading over to the amusement park. And when we got there, I remember we all got this cool like pass to determine what grade we're in, and basically all this stuff about, safety and what group to go to if you're ever in trouble, all that stuff that teachers try to put onto us, even though we never really listened to them. And I remember basically I ended up instantly hanging out with the chick that I was hanging out with the day before, and me and her were just walking around basically flirting and doing our thing. To be honest, I totally ended up dipping on my friend group, which sounds like a non-bro code thing to do, but I'm gonna be real here. Me and this girl were already like majorly really talking to the point where I'm not gonna lie, last night I got some photos, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I was like, you know what? Like, this girl's actually really hot. W. So I remember me and her, we were walking around and we were just basically flirting around the amusement park. And then one thing led to another. We ended up going on a bunch of different rides. We went from rides on going to, like, you know, the elevator to, you know, basic simple teacup rides and even bumper cars. But I think it ended up becoming that one part of the amusement park trip where me and her, we actually ended up walking around the amusement park holding hands. Literally everyone in the school thought we were basically a couple, or everyone that was in the amusement park thought we were a couple. But then this is where things get really sus. I remember this girl, as she was walking around with me, she ended up telling me, Bubba, like, I'm really thirsty. So I ended up pulling out my water bottle out of my backpack that I usually carried around. But then afterwards, she ended up drinking the water, well, really awkwardly. I don't know how to explain it to you guys, but basically, like, her tongue was like going around the rim of the water bottle. You guys know what I mean? Like, I don't really know how to explain it. It sounds sus. YouTube, don't demonetize this video. I'm just trying to explain this the best way possible. And then one thing led to another. I'm not gonna lie, she ended up walking around with me, but she was kind of like getting super handsy in the lineups. Like, she would literally like sometimes like stroke and grab my eggplant once in a while. It would get to the point where sometimes she would even, like, you know, give me a kiss on the cheek. Like, she was really in the mood, okay? She wanted to do the devil's tango. And me being a dumb high schooler in grade 10, I'm not gonna lie, I get bricked up super easily. Like, no joke, it was like I was Professor X taking over the mind control of my eggplant. I just knew when to make it rise and when to make it fall. It was like my own little elevator. Actually, it wasn't so little, but that's not the point. Going on, I remember basically me and her, we decided to go on this ride that was a roller coaster. And when we were in the lineup, I remember this girl got really handsy with me, and I remember basically one thing led to another. I ended up grabbing her cherries, and, you know, it became really awkward. I remember other people in the lineup were actually looking at us thinking, okay, like, yeah, I don't really want to go on this ride anymore, because if they're gonna be like all like that, that's kind of weird. Like, you know those people like in like high school that basically like make out in the hallway and stuff? That was basically us, but at the amusement park. Actually, that sounds really gross. Going on though, I remember basically one thing led to another. We ended up going on the ride, but we saw that a lot of people weren't going on the specific roller coaster because for some reason there was like problems with it. But honestly, I didn't really care. I had a hot chick beside me, so I ended up going on this roller coaster with her. And when we went on the ride, I remember partway through, out of nowhere, the ride ended up stopping. It ended up stopping on top of like the big drop that usually most roller coasters have to give you like an adrenaline rush. And I remember basically I'm looking down at this roller coaster thinking, oh man, okay. And I ended up laying back on my seat thinking, how long are we gonna be up here? I remember I look over at the girl and she's just beside me and she's just like, oh, like, what a view. Like, she's just adoring the view, thinking like this is some romantic scene from a movie. And I remember I look at her and I'm just like, you know, have my arm around her. I'm just chilling, you know, trying to play it cool, thinking, oh yeah, you know, totally cool. It's totally natural to, you know, be stuck on a roller coaster. You know, all roller coasters have this. And I remember this girl just looks at me and she just looks at the ground and she's like, oh, like, are we actually like stuck? I thought this was part of like the view. No, roller coasters don't stop for no reason. No, is what I ended up telling her. But then afterwards, I remember she decided to make this a thing of opportunity and got really close to me. She got close to me and started like basically like kind of like putting her hand on my thigh, and one thing led to another. Well, she was unbuckling my pants. And yeah, let's just say I ended up getting another ride called the Gluck Gluck 9000. I didn't know it was part of the ride, but it made sense. And me and her, we ended up basically doing the devil's tango up on the top of the roller coaster. I don't know how to explain this in the most weirdest way possible. And if anyone's asking, oh, like, what about the people behind you on the ride? Like, didn't they see everything? Well, no, because like I said earlier, a lot of people felt uncomfortable during the lineup and ended up leaving. So I think there was like other people on the ride, but they were like 4 or 5 seats away from us. And like, reminder, we were in the very front. So like, we had the really nice view. And since we were so high up, if people from below looked up, well, they wouldn't really be able to see anything other than a head just bobbling up and down. Yeah, that sounds really bad. I shouldn't say this story. What am I doing? Anyways, that's not the point. Going on though, I remember basically after like 20 minutes, I ended up, you know, doing the devil's creed and doing my thing. And then yeah, I remember there was a guy from down below yelling up above saying, all right guys, the ride's gonna start soon. So I remember when he yelled that, I ended up buckling up my pants as fast as I could, and one thing led to another. I ended up basically going down the roller coaster, getting extra wind going down to my eggplant because I forgot to zip up my zipper. I mean, I don't know, I guess everyone needs a good breeze. And I remember when I got off the roller coaster, this chick like ended up wiping her mouth and she just didn't say anything, and me and her were basically just like looking at each other thinking, wow, we really did that on a roller coaster. It was pretty awkward, but at the same time, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of enjoyed it. What is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So today's story starts off back in high school. You see, back in high school, you guys would already know if you guys watch enough of this channel that I was the ultimate F-boy, the master of the Devil's Tango. And this was my grade 11 year. And this was like fully me into my grade 11 year. And honestly, if you guys may know, I always talk about me and the boys and us doing crazy things. And I think this was a part of our crazy thing. But at the same time, it kind of was just planning something fun. Let me explain. You see, back when I was in high school in grade 11, I had the group called the boys. We're just going to call them that because let's be real here. I'm not going to say their real names on the internet. I'm not exposing people. It's not my job yet. But anyways, like I was saying, so basically, me and the boys were all planning a trip. We all wanted to go do something. And we all wanted to, you know, basically have fun this Halloween because this was around October-ish. And usually every Halloween down here in Vancouver, we have a thing called Playland. And Playland decides to host this thing where it's like spooky, scary Fright Night, you know, all like scary looking stuff around the amusement park. I don't know, it's like how Disneyland themes Christmas, but Playland themes scary monsters with no big peepees. Yeah, there you go. Let's just go with that. So going on, me and the boys were planning going to Fright Night, but honestly, we didn't want to go alone without anybody. Like we kind of wanted to like group up with like a group of girls to go with because, you know, your boys slides like that, you know, it's just better. I don't know if you guys don't understand why, you guys will get it as you guys get into high school, or if you guys are already in high school and get it, you feel me, dog? You feel me? But no, seriously though, so we decided to talk to a bunch of chicks in school and we started like, walking around and stuff. And honestly, my friend had a girlfriend at the time and he's like a part of our group, and he basically invited her and her friends. And I'm not gonna lie, her friends weren't that good looking. Like they were decent, like they weren't like bad. Honestly, one of them ended up being like taller than me. I don't know, it was very interesting, but we'll get to her after. Going on, I remember we all planned to go to Fright Night and we all wanted to go and stuff. So I remember we went back to my friend's house before we left to go to the amusement park. We met up at his place and we all started drinking. Yes, we started drinking before we went into an amusement park. I know, kind of dumb, but at the same time, kind of worth it. So we started to pre-drink, we drank a bit, and you know, we just kept going back to back. But after a while, I remember when we were headed there with the bus, we did not drive, we took the bus. But as we headed there with the bus, I'm not gonna lie, I started feeling dizzy. I got tired, I was exhausted, like I already didn't want to go. But then when we got there, I remember we met up with like this chick's friend group that she brought along so we could hang out with. And I'm not gonna lie, two of the chicks were really hot, but one of them was like really off-putting. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got stuck with that one. Yeah, great. So going on, so me and her were like kind of like, you know, chilling. We started like going to lineups and going to like haunted houses and stuff and started playing little games and stuff and all that weird things you guys would usually see in a movie. Except I would never, you know, if I won a prize, the prize is mine. Like I'm not gonna give it to you because it's my prize. Other than that, so we were doing all these games and stuff and we were walking around, and I remember we went to get food. And obviously around this time, I'm not gonna lie, my pre-drinking game was like already like kind of like slowing down. Like I wasn't even that like in the mood, I guess you guys should say. Like I wasn't like drunk anymore or intoxicated. Can I even say that on YouTube? Can I say drunk? No, but like I was like actually like fine and everything, and this girl was like always like leaning towards me and stuff. And as I started to sober up more and more, I started realizing like, okay, yeah, this chick likes me, like that's great. But I don't know, as I started to sober up more, this girl started to look like eventually more pretty, and I don't know what was going on. Like dude, honestly, my mind was like haunted. Okay, kind of weird for the story being around Halloween time, but it was kind of haunted. Later on, as we started to sober up, me and the rest of the guys were also sobering up at the time, I should probably mention. We started going on rides. We went on, you know, roller coasters. We went on this thing called the Beast, which is like a big swingy scary thingy. Very scary, I don't like it, but you know, just big rides and big scary things. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best at like riding things unless, you know, they're riding me. Sorry, never mind. Anyways, let's keep going. So yeah, we were just on the amusement park and we were just going around, you know, like I said, we were doing the rides. And when we did most of the rides, I remember we all like started to split up with like the chick we were with. So my friend went with his girlfriend, another friend of mine went with one of his friends, you know, like all that stuff. Like we all started to split up. And when we all started to split up, I was stuck with the girl that I thought wasn't like the most attractive, but like, you know, she was like attractive. Like she had lips on her, and me and her did not know at all what to do. All I know is that this girl was just leaning on to me, just, you know, being the girl that she thought I wanted her to be, which is like, you know, attached to me and stuff. You guys will get it over time. But she was like really getting close to me and stuff and, you know, doing all that. And me, I had no idea what to do until I saw it. The one thing that could change this whole thing for me, the Ferris wheel. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Oh my goodness, this is where the story gets really good and Bubba gets that Devil's Tango. And yeah, you're not wrong. That basically sums it up. But you know, here on the Bubba channel, we actually like to explain how it gets to that point. So let me explain. Basically, I remember when we were on the lineup of the Ferris wheel, I remember like all our friends started to disperse and stuff, like I said earlier. But as they started to disperse, they kind of looked back and saw me and this chick going on the Ferris wheel. And honestly, most people, when they go on the Ferris wheel together, they're either gonna heavily make out or they're just gonna sit there and be really awkward and look at each other. That's what I thought was gonna happen, actually, funny enough. But this chick was so on to me, dude. Like, I have no way to explain it, but she was so on to me to the point where she, like, basically when we got on the Ferris wheel, she, like, held my hand into it. And at that point, like, I even remember, like, seeing the person who, like, you know, puts people on the ride, like, kind of, like, look at me going, like, okay. Okay. Like, he even told me how much time we had to go from the bottom of the loop all around. Like, this man thought I was gonna time it. But no, basically we got on there and it started going, and it goes really slowly, this Ferris wheel. It doesn't go like super fast or anything. Like, it's not like one of those cool swinging ones they have at Disneyland. Like, these are just a basic Ferris wheel that goes around, takes like maybe like at most like 10 minutes, maybe. Usually likes to stop when like people are at the top, but I don't know. Anyway, so we were on that Ferris wheel and we were going around slowly. And as we were going around, I remember when we reached the like halfway point on the left side, this girl, she was like cuddling up against me. She put her hand on my thigh, and at that moment I knew someone was gonna go on. I was like, okay, let's think this through. How much time do I really have? And as I was thinking that through, this girl was already on her damn knees, and she was already, you know, doing the devil's head. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this is really awkward, because I could see from the people on the top, like literally on the tippy top, looking down at me and her just between, like her head between my legs. Like, it was really awkward. But as she was going ham on that, I remember thinking, okay, it's fine. I kind of like used my jacket to like cover up my yeah, but going on, that kept going, you know, it went on for a bit, and after that we reached the top, and when we were at the tippy top, I remember I straight up bent this girl over, and bippity boppity boo, we did the devil's tango, and that happened for a bit. After that, I remember the Ferris wheel went down the halfway point, and we did the same thing as we did on the other left side, and that was the devil's head. And after that, we came back to the bottom, we were all closed up, and we pretended nothing happened. We walked out until when I thought the coast was clear. I remember seeing this little kid, I think he was like 13 maybe, walk up to me and give me a fist bump, and he said, "Good stuff, dude," and fist bumps me. Oh my god, did I really just do it in front of a 13-year-old? That was my first thought, to be honest with you guys. But honestly, over time I really started thinking, god, can my life get any more awkward? I don't know, it was just a really awkward experience, guys, and all I'm gonna say is that this chick, she had no problem with it. She had full pride in doing it, and honestly, if she was happy, I was happy. Move on, so forth. All right, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story takes place back, actually, funny enough, 2 years ago. At this age, I remember I was basically supposed to be getting a job and basically getting ready for college, but me, I didn't do any of that because my dream was to become a YouTuber, and thanks to you guys, that dream came true. But having so much free time on my hands after recording a bunch of videos, I remember I would always like to go out and hang out with friends. But then I remember one time when me and all my friends were just sitting in a car, bored as hell. My friend ended up looking at us saying, "Yo, bro, why don't we go to a water park?" What? A water park? We were all super confused on why he said that, but then he ended up saying, "Dude, trust me, bro, it's summertime and a lot of hot girls go to the water park. You don't want to miss it, bro." And at that point, I remember all of us looked at each other and we took his word for it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say no to a cool water park. Going on from there, I remember basically we all ended up going home, getting our swim trunks on, and basically getting ready to go to the water park. I also remember I texted some girls to see if they want to go to the water park with me, because there was no way that I was really gonna risk going to a water park and not seeing any girls, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really the water park kind of guy, if you know what I mean. Anyways, I remember basically we all got ready, and when we did, we all ended up driving down to the water park, and we got there a bit early. I remember when we were there, it was like 3 in the afternoon, and there were a lot of kids in the water park, and me, as a 19-year-old at the time, I didn't think it was really cool to go inside the water park when there's a bunch of children inside. Like, in my opinion, that's kind of weird. So I remember I kind of just held back and started going on my phone and scrolling through TikTok. But as I was doing that, I remember out of nowhere, around like 5:30, so 2 hours later, a bunch of little kids ended up leaving the water park, and the sky was getting dark. I remember as the sky was getting dark, me and my friends were looking at each other thinking it was time to go home, but the water park was still on. We were really confused at first, and then my buddy ends up telling all of us, "Dude, trust me, man, this is where things get good. Just watch what's gonna happen." And then out of nowhere, boom, a Jeep pulls up into the parking lot with a bunch of girls on it, and there were like 7 girls just going into the water park in their bikinis. It was like a scene straight out of Baywatch. It was so majestic and so awesome to see those cherries jiggle as they go into the water park. I was actually surprised. And I remember as we were seeing this go down, me and the boys got really excited. And I think some of us got bricked up, but I'm not sure. I wasn't looking, I swear. Later on, I remember I was like basically going around the water park, running around, having fun, and also I got my water gun to shoot at, you know, people with. I guess you could say I was kind of the rebel. And as I was shooting people with them, I remember some girls would end up chasing me because I accidentally shot them, and it was actually pretty cool to get chased by girls. I literally felt like I was in grade 5 again. That sounds weird, but you guys know what I mean. After a bit though, I remember me and my friends, we ended up grouping up with these group of girls, and we all basically started hanging out together. We all ate together, we all chilled together, and at the same time, we all just started hanging out at the water park getting soaking wet. And don't get me wrong, I like getting girls wet, but this was a whole different thing. Actually, okay, that sounded really weird. YouTube, don't demonetize this video. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember after a while, a lot of the girls were getting cold, and they ended up putting their towels on and basically laying down on the grass. class. And me and the boys, we all ended up hanging out with them because we were all basically becoming friends at that point. But I remember there was one girl in this group that was, well, really, how do I put this, thirsty. It became so awkward when me and her started talking to each other because she would always bring up random stuff like, so like, you have a really nice six-pack. Oh my God, you're so attractive. Like, look at you. And I remember it became super weird to the point where I remember I told her, hey, yo, listen, you need to chill. Like, you know, like, I get you like me, but like, gotta relax. I remember when I said that, one of her friends ended up coming up to me saying, okay, dude, listen, she's literally into you, and we already know that you're bricked up from looking at us, so just like, go hang out with her. At this point, it sounded like I was being peer pressured to literally go do the devil's tango with her. And then I remember I basically told them, okay, yo, chill. Listen, I think she's cute, yeah, but like, you know, don't push me into it. I remember all the girls ended up rolling their eyes at me and ended up walking away. These girls were really sassy, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought high school was behind them, but it seemed like they still act like high schoolers. And yes, all of them were above the age of 19, by the way. Don't get it twisted, all right, guys? Anyways, going on, I remember afterwards, I started hanging out with the girl that really liked me, and I ended up adding her on Snapchat. And when I did, I remember me and her were just sitting beside each other, just talking about life and talking about what we wanted to do. I remember she ended up telling me that how she wants to become a doctor and all this stuff, like most girls want to, I guess. And then I remember I ended up telling her my dream of becoming a YouTuber, and as usual, she ended up saying, oh, okay, that's pretty cute, I guess. Whatever that means, like, sure, whatever. And then I remember it got to the point where the water park ended up turning off, and a lot of people started leaving. The boys started leaving, and at the same time, her friend group started leaving. But then afterwards, I remember I told her, hey, if you want to stay longer, like, I can just drive you back home. Because at this point, I was actually getting into her, and she was actually, like, you know, actually really hot. And then I remember she ends up looking at me saying, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. So I remember she ended up getting up and going to the bathroom. I thought, to be honest, she was ditching me, so I ended up getting my towel and putting my shirt back on and getting ready to leave. But as I was heading for my car, I remember I saw this girl ended up sending me a Snapchat of her in the bathroom, and it was literally a photo of her cherry saying, you want to enjoy these tonight? At that point, I already knew I was in, but there was no way I was going to take her to her house because she has parents at home, and I also have parents at my house. So I remember afterwards, I ended up walking up to the girl afterwards when she came out of the bathroom saying, yo, listen, I don't know how we're going to do this, but like, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I can't take you back to my place. So I was being brutally honest. And if I'm being real with you guys, I was planning not even to do the devil's tango at all. But then I remember she said, well, I mean, I just canceled my ride. So like, do you want to just go do it in the water park instead? Like, why not? Like, we might as well just do it at the water park. No one's there. Okay, I guess is what I told her. And then me and her, we ended up going to the water park, and we literally ended up doing the devil's tango while we were standing on hard cement and basically doing it. It was pretty awkward at first, but I'm not gonna lie, since it was really late at night and the water park was off, it was not like, you know, we were gonna get caught. So I remember we just kept doing it, and it became like half an hour later. And then one thing I realized is that randomly out of nowhere, the park lights turned on and we were freaking out. It was weird because it was only like 10 p.m. at night, and for some reason the lights came on, and it was super awkward because I remember me and her just started looking at each other thinking, okay, it's maybe time to go. So I remember I ended up going to my car, and she ended up coming in my car with me and basically ended up driving her home. I drove her straight home, and then afterwards she ended up telling me, I had a lot of fun today. Good, I hope so, is what I told her. And then afterwards she ended up getting out of my car, coming up to my window, and then making out with me through my car door. Pretty awkward, but then she ended up leaving, going back to her house, and yeah, I guess that was basically it. I remember I ended up driving home, and I ended up telling the boys what happened, and none of them believed me, but you know what? It is what it is. I gotta be honest, clout chasers are like a thing I have to like deal with nowadays, and at the same time, like, as much as I don't believe that I'm considered famous in people's heads, which is weird because I don't know, kids told me I'm not, and then like when I talk to big creators that are actually like, you know, bigger creators than me, they're like, oh no, like you're average size, and in my head I'm thinking like, what am I? Am I a basic guy? Am I famous? Like I don't know what I am at this point. But knowing you guys are always there to support me and everything, honestly, like famous or not, I just know that you guys are by my side, and that's like the coolest thing in the world. Because like I remember when I was a kid being like 15, and like not even 15, when I was like 13, and thinking that, you know, having a big audience was considered like cool. Like I don't know, I grew up on the Skydiz Minecraft days, so you guys could probably already tell that like I don't know, I've been on YouTube for a while and watching people, but knowing that I'm being watched now, it's like it's a cool reverse, you know what I mean? But this story does go crazy. And also, Devil's Tango merch is still down below, so if you guys want to go check that out, go check it out. And let's get straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story actually goes back kind of like, actually I want to say maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. So this was like my grade 12 year of high school, and I'm just, you know, me being me. And you know, around this time I really wanted to be a content creator. Like I think this was like when I decided to like become a like full-on YouTuber full-time and everything, because before, when I did it
back when I was a kid, and you guys probably went back to my older videos and you guys saw like I've been, making videos since 2015. That's kind of like not true, because I made a video in 2015. That is true, but I didn't I was never consistent on it until start of last year, I believe. But no, I decided to literally kind of put myself into that YouTube position and put myself as a content creator. And I remember that did kind of affect my way with girls and stuff, because girls did not find content creators attractive. Hell, if there's any girls that are looking for content creators to talk to and stuff, I mean, hey, yo, I'm here. JK, I can't date fans. Oh, I hate that word. Never mind. I don't know what to name you guys. But no, seriously, going on though. So I remember this was a time where I wanted to be a content creator. This is when I wanted to make content, make people smile and all that cool stuff. But then I realized that my girlfriend at the time thought it was a really dumb idea. She would always tell me how it would be embarrassing, and how you don't belong on camera, and all these crazy things. Even though it was my true passion to become a content creator, she always told me not to. And this channel I have right now, Bubba Streams channel, it's been a thing since I want to say back I say 2013. But uploading on it and stuff, for example, that old 2015 video was still up, and a bunch of older videos were up that I privated nowadays. And I she knew they were up at that time, and she was like, oh, these are embarrassing, you should take them down, seriously, they're gross, and they make me look bad in front of my friends. And I kept telling her this is my passion, this is what I want to do, this is my dream. And she said no, your dream is to go to school, study, and become a lawyer. Funny enough, she sounded literally like my parents at the time, because my parents didn't even believe this was a job before I actually became a YouTuber. But it was really weird just having that conversation with her of understanding how content creating is a real job and stuff and all these things. To this day, I don't think she still believes I'm a YouTuber. I think she's thinks I don't know, I scoop poop for a living or something. But no, I remember one time she came over to my place and we were talking about stuff, and she saw my gaming setup, and she kept complaining on how I should just at this point delete my channel. She literally said this, I believe you should actually delete your channel. I don't understand why you keep making content when no one's gonna watch you. There's no reason for you to be sitting here hours on end making videos and stuff if no one's gonna even watch you in the first place. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys. First off, I love you guys. Thank you for actually supporting my career and this, and keep trying to make content. But at the same time, I've been demotivated by a lot of people in my life to not be a YouTuber, not be a content creator. Of course, for me though, I just need that push, and I guess seeing other content creators and being inspired by other creators really got me to this point. Now, over time, me and her kept arguing about me being a content creator or not, to the point where I was just about to leave. I was about to say, you know what, I might as well just leave her. She's not accepting me as a content creator, and she just doesn't like me. But then I remember one night, the night I was gonna end things, I didn't have the balls to end it, because I was kind of scared and stuff. And after a while, she was staying the night, so I remember me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango. And I don't know what it is, but every time you do the devil's tango, you actually get tired. This is a common fact that many people deal with, okay? And I'm serious, everyone gets tired after doing the devil's tango. But then as I went to sleep, I remember I laid down and closed my eyes, and I saw her get up, and I was curious. I was wait a minute, why is she getting up? We literally just did the devil's tango. Is she gonna go to the bathroom? At first she went to the bathroom, and I'm okay, you know what, that's fine. I can lay down, I can close my eyes, I can sleep, not an issue. But as I was falling asleep, I remember this girl literally sat at my gaming setup, and she went on my computer. Now at first I was kind of pretending to sleep, because I kind of wanted to see what she was doing, because I don't know, it was kind of weird. But then I saw her go to my YouTube channel, and she was trying to delete it. I remember literally her searching up on Google how to delete a YouTube channel, and that's when I got up, and I'm what are you doing? Because at the time, I'm not gonna lie, the YouTube channel wasn't big. I had 300 subscribers at most, but that 300 subscribers at that point was a big deal for me. Okay, even having 100,000 right now is still a big deal for me, but back then having 300 was still a big deal, because knowing 300 people decided to press that subscribe button, which is crazy now, because 100,000 of you guys decided to press that subscribe button. I don't know, it's crazy. But knowing that this girl was going to press the delete channel button on my channel was a no-no. I remember I jumped out of the bed, and I walked up to that desk, and I'm what are you doing? She's oh, honey, I'm just gonna do you a favor right now. Seriously, you don't need this channel. I think it's gonna affect our relationship forever, because we keep talking about this dumb thing. And that's when I knew I had to do what was right. I remember I looked over at my channel. I saw my YouTube channel at the screen. It looked very different than what it was now. And then I looked at her, and then she said this: either you choose the YouTube channel or you choose me. That's when I knew. I looked over my channel. I was like, it was a good run. Then she told me, I knew you made the right choice. And I said, what? No, you're done. Like, I'm actually done. Like, no, you're leaving. You're done. We're breaking up. And her eyes opened wide. She started freaking out and basically like yelling. And I remember my parents walked into the room like, what's going on? Like, is everything okay? And she's just, you know, yelling, hitting me on my chest, freaking out. Yeah, this was when I really decided like I really wanted to be a YouTuber. Cause like, I don't know, I guess I chose, the first time I actually chose, you know, doing the Devil's Tango over a girl, which is kind of insane actually. I never thought I made that decision because usually girls would be over my life and everything, you know, like, I don't know, it was crazy. And the next day after that, I started recording videos. I didn't record the best videos, but I recorded YouTube videos that I guess, you know, made me happy. And now knowing I'm a YouTuber, making my own videos and telling you guys basically this crazy story of how, not how Bubba started, but on how, you know, I want to be a YouTuber and committed to it was insane. Okay, so I know many people are fans of this channel, and there are many people that ultimately hate this channel. But one time, my babysitter hated this channel, and let's just say she ended up deleting it. This story does go really insane, but before we get into that, make sure you guys slap that like button, and also make sure to subscribe, because when you do, I'm able to tell more crazy stories just like this one. And other than that, let's just jump straight into today's crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a really embarrassing video. So today's story all takes place back when I was in grade 9. Now, if you guys don't know, I've been making videos for a very long time. I think this channel was made around 2015. So I've been making videos since like 14 years old. And I remember when I was 14, one of my dreams was becoming a content creator. So I remember there would be days where I would just be at home and recording my gameplay and doing Call of Duty cut commentary and basically just talking about life and school and basically all the things I hated about it. There are many videos privated on this channel about that, but obviously I'm not going to show them because I do end up saying names of people. And I'm not gonna lie, one of the reasons why I did it was because, well, I don't know, I guess talking smack on the internet was really common. So that's kind of what I would do over the internet when I did Call of Duty cut comms back then. And me, like I said earlier, I was only like 14 years old. So me, I would always like, you know, go to my friends and stuff, and they all knew that I was a YouTuber, or trying to be a YouTuber at least, and that it was my dream. But obviously, once I told my friends, other people in my high school started hearing that I was a YouTuber. And there was one girl that I used to talk smack about on my channel that, let's just say, ended up hating my YouTube videos. She hated that I was a YouTuber or trying to be a YouTuber. And every time I talked about YouTube with my friends, she would always jump into the conversation saying, Bubba, you don't know anything about YouTube. YouTube's a place of being friendly and awesome and kind to each other. Honestly, I would hate to know what she thinks about the channel now, but going on with the story. And she kept basically telling me how I need to be more motivative than, you know, destructive on the YouTube channel. And me, I ended up laughing at her, saying that, you know, internet hate will always be a thing and it will always, you know, get worse and worse. And she just kept being in denial about it. And I remember me and her, let's just say we never ended up getting along. But what ends up happening next in the story made me end up getting stuck with her to the point where it sucked. Because I remember that same day when I went home from school, I ended up walking up to my parents and I saw that they were packing. I wasn't sure why they were packing, but apparently there was an emergency that they had to deal with and had to go stay with a relative of mine. I remember I looked at both of them and said, wait, so do you guys want me to come? They both said no, and that they, you know, they didn't want me to, like, you know, get in the way of anything. So they ended up telling me how they were going to hire me a babysitter. Now, like I said, I've had many babysitters, and some of them were good moments and some of them, well, they just weren't it. And I remember the same day I ended up going in my room. It was a Friday. I was playing Call of Duty. I was doing my own thing, and I ended up hearing a knock on the door. My parents go and answer it, and I heard the most irritating sound that I hated with a passion. And it was the girl that hated my YouTube channel in high school. I remember she ends up coming into my house, and basically she claims that she was a babysitter and wanted to know who she was babysitting. And when my parents said my name, I remember I ended up coming down the stairs, and she looked at me with her eyes wide open and started laughing, saying, I know Bubba, he goes to my school, we're in the same class. Oh my goodness, you need a babysitter? I remember at that moment I was so embarrassed. I'm like, listen, like, all you gotta do is just watch over me. It's nothing crazy. It's like us hanging out basically. And she ended up laughing and texting her friends about this, and honestly, it was just really weird. And as my parents left, I'm not gonna lie to you, things just kept getting worse and worse because I was basically stuck in the house with a hater of my YouTube channel. I didn't know what to do, and I was kind of just like looking around thinking, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna stay in my room. She's gonna watch the TV
downstairs in the living room, and neither of us will bother each other. At least that's what I thought. Because I remember when I went upstairs and started playing games, and I remember when I was in my room the whole time, I got really bored. So what I would do usually is record a YouTube video. So that's what I did. I was recording a video about how, like, you know, school sucks and how, like, you know, some people suck at my school. Basically ranting, because that was mostly what I recorded back then when I was in high school. And I remember my babysitter ended up walking into the room saying, "Are you kidding me? You're recording a video? Bubba, you're not a YouTuber. You're just a loser." And basically she ended up grabbing my laptop that I was recording with, and she ended up grabbing it and running downstairs with it. I remember I got super upset and I started chasing her down the stairs, and I basically started chasing her all around my house just to get my laptop that I was recording with. She ended up throwing it on the kitchen table. Luckily, nothing bad happened to it, but still, I was really annoyed because she ruined my entire video. So I ended up taking my laptop upstairs and shutting my door and slamming it. And let's just say what she ended up doing next made me cry into tears, because I remember later on that night, it was super late and I was just, you know, doing my own thing, and I was, you know, getting ready for bed. And as I was laying in bed, I remember I ended up passing out, kind of sleeping, but not fully sleeping. And I ended up hearing someone go into my room, take something and leave. Now, I didn't know who it was, and I was really just like confused. So I ended up basically getting up in the middle of the night, like 20 minutes later, and I started heading downstairs to see what was going on. When I went downstairs to see what was going on, I remember I saw my babysitter with my laptop. I was so confused, and I looked at her saying, "Yo, what are you doing with my laptop? Like, what?" And then she ended up saying, "Bubba, I just deleted your YouTube channel because let's be real here, you're not meant to be on YouTube." I remember at that moment, I got so angry, and I ended up yelling, "Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are?" And I ended up running up to her, pushing her out of the way, like literally body checking her as if I was playing like football. And I grabbed my laptop, ran upstairs, and I just stayed on that thing, trying to get YouTube support to help me out and basically try to figure out how I can get my channel back. Obviously, at the time, the channel only had like 100 subscribers. It was nothing crazy. It was nothing big. I think only my relatives, my mom, and probably some friends at school only subscribed to the channel. But the channel meant a lot to me, and I knew one day I wanted to be a YouTuber. So I ended up going through my channel. I ended up going through everything I could, going through emails, contacting YouTube support, trying to find any way to get my channel back. Luckily, I ended up finding someone that was able to get the channel revived and get the channel back from being deleted. And when I got it back, I was really happy. You guys have no idea how happy I was. And honestly, if I never did get the channel back, this channel wouldn't exist, because it was this exact channel that ended up reviving. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's crazy story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys. My channel got stolen by one of my friends, and if you guys don't subscribe, your channel will be stolen. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a really insane story. This story all starts off 3 years ago, and I am not joking. 3 years ago was when I made this channel become Bubba. This was when Bubba became Bubba, and basically all the insane stories I tell you now on this channel used to be all gone. I remember back 3 years ago when I first started doing YouTube videos and started telling stories. I remember I was pretty out of pocket. There were some stories on this channel where I would end up actually saying full-on names of people, and let's just say it got me into a lot of trouble. I remember 3 years ago, me and my friends, we decided to all go hang out one time and basically go and just have a good time, hang out with the boys. You know, nothing new. We were the same boys since high school, and I'm not gonna lie, even though some of us didn't grow up, most of us did. And I remember when me and all the boys were going out, hanging out, doing our own thing, one of my friends ended up walking up to me. He walked up to me and said, "Yo, Bubba, isn't that like one of your homies from back in middle school?" Now, I've told many stories from middle school, and I remember when my friend brought this guy up, I ended up looking at him saying, "Oh yeah, that is the guy from middle school." Now, this guy he ended up pointing out to, actually, I used to talk about a lot on this channel. He was my middle school bully that, let's just say, I never liked. I'm not joking. He actually scarred me for many moments of my middle school life. And I remember when I saw him, instantly, I looked towards his direction. And you know that feeling when you're being watched? Well, he felt that from me, and he ended up looking towards me and saw it was me. Now, this moment, I thought he didn't recognize me. I'm not gonna lie, I had a beard, I looked totally different. I did not look like normal Bubba from back in middle school. But right away, as he looked at me, he looked dead in my eyes. And I am not joking, he knew exactly who I was. At that moment, I was freaking out. I was like, oh, I think he recognized me. Let's go outside, let's go outside. So me and my friends, we ended up going outside, and I remember he ended up following us outside and walked up to me saying, "Yo, Bubba, is that you?" Now, if you guys don't know, my real name's Arash. So for him to call me Bubba was actually kind of funny, because Bubba's
like my internet name. It's what you guys call me, and you guys are the Bubba gang. So obviously, like, you know, it was really weird seeing people I knew in real life call me Bubba. But when he called me Bubba, I knew at that moment he definitely knew about my channel, because the only people that would call me Bubba were people that knew I was an internet storytelling Devil's Tango master. So I remember he ended up walking up to me, calling me Bubba, and I said, yo, like, what's going on? And he ended up basically wanting to catch up. He basically was being really nice to me and really kind to me, and me and him, we actually became good friends that night. We ended up all going back into the bar, having a good time, drinking and doing all the good things in life and being good to each other. But I'm not gonna lie to you, at this moment something was up, because all the stories I've told about him were bad stories about how he ruined me. And it was funny because he would bring up the channel, but he would never mention the stories that he was in. And I'm not gonna lie to you, things ended up getting a lot worse, because I remember a couple days went by, and I remember me and him, we would always, like, you know, talk through our phones, and basically we would always end up hanging out more and more. Me and my middle school bully actually ended up becoming good friends, as weird as it was. And I remember as me and him became good friends and we started talking more and stuff, it got really weird because he would never actually end up bringing up the videos where I talked about him, until one day I remember he actually ended up coming over to my place. I invited him over because he wanted to hang out and see how this whole YouTube thing works. So I ended up bringing him over. He looked at my setup and he was actually amazed about how much work I actually put into becoming a creator. And then I remember he ended up sitting at my desk looking at my gaming setup, and me, I looked at him and thinking nothing was gonna happen, I ended up deciding to go to the bathroom. Now I'm gonna say this right now, if you have a computer or a gaming setup or even your iPhone, never leave it on without a password, because who knows what the person in that room with an open device might do. So I remember as I went to the bathroom, I went to go take a quick waz, and right after my bathroom break, I ended up coming back out and I saw he was on my computer looking at just my YouTube channel. He was scrolling through my videos, and I remember it got to a point where he stopped scrolling and clicked on the video where I ended up making fun of him on. He opened it and he's like, oh, this is my favorite story. And he ended up basically watching it with me. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's weird when I watch my videos with my friends, but watching a video about a person that's in the same room as me that I made was the most awkward thing ever. Because I remember at moments where I would make fun of him, he would look towards me and be like, yeah, so this is what you think of me, really? This is exactly what you think of me? You never maybe thought to ask, you know, to post about me? I ended up looking at him being like, yo, like, I never said your name, nothing. Like, I would never say your name. I was being nice. And me being nervous and stuttering and freaking out about this guy basically confronting me about the videos, he ended up saying this: Bubba, you're gonna regret posting stories about me. I'm gonna say that right now, so just prepare yourself. I remember at that moment I was pretty weirded out. I'm like, yo, was that like a threat? Like, what are you trying to do here? No, it's not a threat, just don't worry about it. Just honestly keep being you, man. See where it gets you. And he ended up standing up and walking away. Now that moment I didn't really know what that meant. He ended up leaving my house in anger, and honestly I ended up being scared, just sitting in my room thinking, what does that mean? Did he cast a spell on me? Is everything just gonna disappear one day? And let's just say, yeah, everything was gonna disappear. Because I remember the next day when I woke up in the morning and I went on YouTube to search up my channel, I ended up getting a 404 page saying how this channel didn't exist. I was so confused, and I remember I ended up basically reaching out to YouTube support to see what was wrong, to see if I got banned or anything. I didn't know what was going on. I remember at that moment I ended up basically, you know, tweeting out on Twitter, but by the way, you guys should follow my Twitter because I give out the latest updates on there. And I basically tweeted out saying, yo guys, my channel, I think something happened to it. I'm not sure, but just want to say I'll figure things out soon. And right after, when I sent that tweet, 5 minutes later, I ended up getting a text message from this bully that was from my middle school. He ended up texting me saying, about time something bad happened. And at that moment, I knew instantly when he texted me that he was the reason why all this happened. That time when I left him alone in my computer, he deleted my account. I'm not joking. I was upset. I was so angry, and I was so mad to the point where I remember I ended up actually opening another YouTube channel, which is the second channel, and I ended up basically posting on there saying, hey guys, like, sorry, we're gonna get things figured out. And me, that whole weekend, I ended up actually contacting YouTube support to figure things out. Luckily, YouTube's actually a great platform, and they listen to the creators and they actually help out and make sure things go right. But I am not joking when I say this. The next day afterwards, I ended up realizing that there was a video that I did not upload on that channel. I ended up going onto the channel and seeing what was on there, and I ended up seeing a video of my middle school bully basically posting photos about me from back when I was in middle school. A lot of people in the comments were laughing and stuff because obviously at this time I didn't really show my face a lot on the YouTube channel. So obviously it was a little weird and kind of crazy how he kind of just doxed me in a way and doxed what middle school I went to and everything. And I started panicking. And at the end of the video, I remember he ended up putting a message up saying, from your middle school bully, hope you enjoyed this. And then afterwards he ended up shutting off the camera. I ended up freaking out and I was really upset. At that moment, I knew the first thing I had to do was change all my passwords, become smart with everything, and make sure there was no way for him to ever get in contact with my channel again. And at that moment, I learned as well to never trust anyone from back in high school that you talked bad about. Anyways, follow for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.